What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to take a look at my number 4 greatest fighter of all times, Hammering Henry Armstrong to your right. And my top 10 greatest Mexican fighter in boxing history. To your left is Albert Baby Arizmendi. Now, these two men would encounter 6 great fights. They were split 3 between the two of them. Baby Arizmendi would be the New York SAC featherweight champion in 1934. And he would be the Mexican and California state featherweight champion. He would pass those titles on to Henry Armstrong. Now, Henry Jackson Jr., who was Henry Armstrong, was born out of Columbus, Mississippi. He was a featherweight, welterweight, and lightweight champion. He would have 27 fights, winning 26 by knockout in 1937. Along the way, capturing the featherweight championship belt from Petey Cerrone, New York's Madison Square Garden, becoming the first black featherweight champion of all time. He would have 152 wins, 22 losses, 101 knockouts. He'd be stopped 2 times, once against Alamino and the other against Fritzy Zivik. Now, he would face Mexican's featherweight, Albert Baby Arizmendi. Faced him 6 times. December 23rd, 1933. November 3rd, 1934. January 2nd, 1935. August 5th, 1936. March 13th, 1938. And January 10th, 1939. Arizmendi would have a fighting record of 87 wins, 26 losses, 14 draws, and 20 knockouts. And after losing his first encounter with Baby Arizmendi, December 22nd, 1933, 10-round decision, Armstrong defeats Davey Abad, Perfecto Lopez, Midget Wargas, Alton Black. He would face Arizmendi again, November 3rd, 1934. He would lose a 12-round affair. California and Mexican state championship belt was on the line. Now, Armstrong would be involved with many fights with great Mexican fighters. Fighters such as Joey Silva and Aldi Spordy. Matter of fact, Aldi Spordy would be the fighter that would take Henry Armstrong the distance in 1937. And that's amazing, because after 27 fights and 26 knockouts, Aldi Spordy would be the opponent that would go the distance. Armstrong would also face Joe Conti, Perfecto Lopez, Rodolfo Ramirez, Enrique Ferrento, Baby Arizmendi, and Baby Casanova. All great Mexican fighters. The third encounter between Henry Armstrong and Baby Arizmendi would be August 4th, 1936, Wrigley's Field. It would be Los Angeles, California. The referee was George Blake. George Blake would be the referee that would be responsible for a 10-round draw, 1940, against Seferino Garcia and Henry Armstrong. George Blake would take 5 rounds away from Henry Armstrong, realizing that that would make it a draw. And he would fly out of the arena. He was paid off. After 6 fights with Perfecto Lopez and 2 fights with Baby Arizmendi for Henry Armstrong, and 5 fights with Lou Ambers and Davey Day, Eddie Shea, and Tiger Kid Walker for Baby Arizmendi. It'd be 2 wins for Armstrong. Chalky Wright. He would have 1 win and 1 loss amongst great fighters such as Chalky Wright, who would become a featherweight champion of the world. And he would lose his title to Willie Pep. Armstrong would meet for the 3rd time, but not the final time, with Baby Arizmendi. He would step on the scales of 125 pounds. Arizmendi would have 126 pounds of weight on his body. And on the 4th encounter, March 15th, 1938, Henry Armstrong would now be the welterweight champion of the world. He would step on the scales of 130 pounds. ARIZMENDI, 132 pounds. It'll be a 10-round affair. And Armstrong would defeat baby ARIZMENDI. Now, along the way, Armstrong would pick up the California State and Mexican Championship belt in the featherweight division from baby ARIZMENDI. But in this encounter, March 15th, 1938, baby ARIZMENDI's eyes would be shut closed. But some way, somehow, he would manage to go the distance. At the Olympic Auditorium, Los Angeles, California, Henry Armstrong would be victorious. Fifth encounter, Henry Armstrong, now welterweight and lightweight champion. He would relinquish the featherweight championship belt, December of 1938. In his fifth encounter, Armstrong would step on the scales at 134 pounds, and ARIZMENDI 136 pounds. January 10th, 1939, Olympic Auditorium, referee George Blake once again. ARIZMENDI would win only one round, and he would slug his way to the distance, but he would take a terrible beating in the process. And Henry Armstrong would wind up becoming the fourth greatest fighter in boxing history in the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. And that's quite a feat. You're looking at a man who actually started as bantamweight, but is recorded as featherweight, and win that championship belt and a welterweight championship belt, and go back down to lightweight within a 10-month span and beat some of the greatest fighters of his time. He'd be in the ring with Sugar Ray Robinson in 1943. Yes, he was past his prime, but he went the distance. Fought Bojack. Bojack would have 21 main event fights in Madison Square Garden, a record till this day. Henry Armstrong, an icon and a living legend. As for baby ARIZMENDI, having been the top 10 greatest Mexican fighter of all times. Thanks for hanging in there with me and reviewing the fights of baby ARIZMENDI and hammering Henry Armstrong, right here on a Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. All great fights and all great fighters would never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to baby ARIZMENDI. Salute to hammering Henry Armstrong. Dynamic featherweights in their day.